Meanwhile, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calls the Olympic ban on marijuana an instrument of racism. Here to react, the host of Rob Smith is Problematic, the podcast, and author of Always a Soldier, Rob Smith. Rob, good to have you this morning. So, look, I think everyone is disappointed. Sha'Carri Richardson, chiefly among us, but every American is disappointed to lose one of our nation's top sprinters, a likely Olympic gold medalist from the Olympics. But the rule against marijuana is one imposed by the World Anti-Doping Agency. I'm having trouble looking at that and seeing how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can come to the conclusion it's just another example of American systemic racism.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm on Team Sha'Carri. That's why I'm rocking the orange. It's just this whole situation is really sad. And so what's going on here is this. The rule itself is not specifically racist, right? If the rule was racist, that would mean that Sha'Carri would be disqualified and a white athlete would be able to compete if they had tested positive for cannabis. And I'm going to do something very strange that's very uncomfortable for me. I'm actually going to kind of clarify what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is saying, because I think that there's a little bit of merit here. And hear me out here. What she's getting at is the fact that marijuana rules in terms of it being illegal to sell and all that stuff, like this stuff has really disproportionately affected African Americans for decades, right? In terms of criminalization, in terms of being incarcerated, all of that stuff. And what I think AOC is doing is trying to tie that to the rules that are the Anti-Doping Commission in the Olympics. I think it's sloppy. I think it's an example of the left trying to see racism everywhere. But I understand in this instance where she's coming from, and I think that right now, I'm always Team America. We're going to lose one of our greatest athletes because of this rule, and I think that it's time for us to have a conversation about these rules. We've got marijuana legalization in so many states across this country, and we've got CEOs that are actually turning this into a multi-million, in some cases, multi-billion-dollar business.
Right.
So where do these two things intersect? And I think that's what AOC is trying to get at. I don't think the rule is specifically racist, but she's trying to hit at the racist history of how these laws are enforced among African Americans.
Yeah, Rob, but here's the thing. If you have to squint that hard to see a connection, if you have to stretch that far to make a connection, you're really shoving a big-time narrative into a single story, and it doesn't fit. To be quite honest, it doesn't fit. This isn't just an American rule. It's a World Anti-Doping Agency rule that forbids you from testing positive for marijuana. I agree with you. There are some holes in the logic of the rule, but I don't know how we set it aside because we want Sha'Carri Richardson to win. We all do, by the way. I want her to go to the Olympics and win gold for America. But you can't just go about handing out passes, and you can't just go about going, well, let's ex post facto fix the rule. Fix the rule. But that's not going to save Sha'Carri Richardson from violating the rule in the immediate term.
Yeah, unfortunately not. And I'm going to echo what a lot of conservatives have been saying about the Olympic rules in general. Whereas, you know, they're allowing this transgender athlete, Laurel Hubbard, to compete, who transitioned like literally after 35 against women. But now Sha'Carri Richardson can't compete because there's a rule against cannabis. So there's some rules that are really out of whack here. And I think that we need to start having a conversation about what exactly is going on with the Olympics.
Totally agree.
Because this entire situation is devastating.
What a ridiculous absurdity that a male athlete, if he takes enough estrogen, if he suppresses his own testosterone through hormonal treatment, can compete as a female, but a female who violates a non-PE drug cannot. It's absurd, and it shows the ridiculousness of both rules. So the answer is fix them. Unfortunately, it won't save Sha'Carri Richardson from violating those rules in the near term. Rob, always good to talk to you. Enjoy your perspective. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You bet.